Tell you that, Muhammad Ali, one of my favorite quotes that he says is, "To others is the rent you pay for the room you have here on earth."
The year is 1967. The most famous athlete on the planet walks into a federal building in Houston, Texas. Cameras are waiting. The whole world is watching. His name is called. He doesn't move. It's called again. Silence. One step forward, that's all it would have taken. One step and he keeps everything. His title, his freedom, his future. He doesn't take it. And in that single moment of stillness, Muhammad Ali became something far greater than a boxer. He became a man willing to lose everything for what he believed was right. But to understand why, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Louisville, Kentucky, 1942. A city where the color of your skin decided the size of your life. Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. was born into that city, into a family that had love but not much else. His father painted signs. His mother cleaned other people's homes. The money ran out before the month did, most times. But nobody could take away the fire inside that boy. At 12 years old, somebody stole his bicycle. He was furious, the raw, helpless fury of a child robbed of something precious. He found a police officer named Joe Martin and told him, through tears and clenched fists, that he wanted to beat up whoever took it. Martin looked at this skinny, trembling kid and told him something simple. Learn how to fight first, then we'll talk. Cassius walked into that gym and something clicked into place that never came undone. He trained while other boys played. He sparred while other boys slept. There was something almost unnatural about the way he moved. Quick, fluid, instinctive, like boxing had always lived inside him, and the gym just gave it a door. By 18, he stood on an Olympic podium in Rome with a gold medal pressed against his chest. A black kid from Louisville had just told the whole world he was arriving, and he was only getting started. He turned professional and brought something the sport had never seen, a fighter who was also a force of nature. Loud, beautiful, brilliant, and absolutely certain of his own destiny. He didn't just predict victories, he predicted the round. He would stand in front of microphones and cameras and declare himself the greatest before a single punch was thrown. And then, he'd go prove it. In 1964, he stepped into the ring against Sonny Liston, a man so terrifying that even hardened gamblers wouldn't bet against him. The experts gave Cassius Clay no chance. The odds were almost insulting. What happened instead shook the entire sport to its foundation. Liston quit on his stool, and Clay stood in the center of that ring, screaming at every journalist who had doubted him, every voice that had told him to be humble, to be quiet, to know his place. He had no interest in any of that. The next morning, he announced his new name. Cassius Clay was gone. Muhammad Ali had arrived, and America had absolutely no idea what to do with him. 3 years later came the moment that would define him more than any championship ever could. The Vietnam War was consuming the country, and Muhammad Ali, the heavyweight champion of the world, received his draft notice. He refused, not in a whisper, not with apology. He stood before the press and said what millions were thinking, but nobody with his profile had ever dared to say out loud. He had no quarrel with the Viet Cong. His enemies, he said, were right here at home. The punishment was swift and merciless. They stripped his title. They revoked his passport. He was convicted of draft evasion and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He was 25 years old, in the absolute prime of his athletic life, and he was finished, or so they thought. He returned to a sport that had sharpened itself against his absence. New champions, new dangers, and one night in Zaire, Africa, he faced George Foreman, a wrecking machine who had destroyed every human being placed in front of him. Nobody gave Ali a prayer. He was too old, too slow, too gone. What Ali did that night became legend. He leaned on the ropes and let Foreman hit him, round after punishing round, absorbing everything while Foreman's arms grew heavy and his power drained away. Then, in the 8th round, Ali uncoiled. Foreman went down and stayed there. The greatest was champion again, and the world that had tried to erase him had to look him in the eyes and accept it. But every story has its reckoning. By the early 1980s, the trembling had started. The voice that had commanded arenas was softening. In 1984, Muhammad Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The cruelest possible ending for the fastest hands the sport had ever seen. He never surrendered to it. He traveled the world as a humanitarian, flew to Iraq to negotiate the release of American hostages, worked with children in poverty, carried the Olympic torch in Atlanta in 1996 with a hand that shook but a face that didn't. He kept showing up. That was always his answer to everything. Keep showing up.
We've just learned some very sad news, the passing of an American icon, Muhammad Ali, the larger-than-life boxing legend, has died at the age of 74.
Muhammad Ali died on June 3, 2016. The grief was global and immediate, not the grief you feel for a celebrity, but the kind you feel when something irreplaceable leaves the world. Because Ali was never just a boxer. He was the loudest voice in a room that kept telling him to be silent. He was a black man in an America that feared black confidence, and he was magnificently confident. He was a man of faith who paid for that faith in years and dollars and reputation, and never once asked for it back. He once said, "I am America. I am the part you won't recognize, but get used to me." We got used to him. We needed him. And on the days when the world feels like it's demanding your silence, when the cost of standing still seems lower than the cost of standing up, remember that one man in one federal building in 1967 heard his name called twice and didn't move.